Before we get started with this week's show, I just wanted to say thank you. So many of you reached out last week when the show hit episode 200 that I just wanted to say thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. You all have played a part in all of this as well. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And partially because this week is Thanksgiving, and I'm very thankful to have so many people listen to this show and support this show from all around the world, not just America, not just the UK, but from Australia and Canada and, France and places in South America and Africa and China. So thank you to all of you who do support the show. As the holiday season comes, I hope that you enjoy it, even though it is, very much different from how we would all like it to be. But I hope that you all enjoy your time, and I hope that you enjoy Thanksgiving because, maybe you can't see your family, but the food is still going to be good. Not that it's all about food, but it definitely is about a large part of it is. So anyway, let's get to this week's show. Also, I made a mistake in the intro. When I introduced this week's guest, Richard Kharman, I said several times that we beat Wolves, and we didn't beat Wolves. And I'm just getting out in front of that now. So anyway, on with the show.
You're listening to the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Monte with a scooping
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Отдача, Остин! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Pella. Onside, 1-0! Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, available right here on SouthamptonDellivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope you enjoy it. And based on last night's performance, I think the show will be enjoyable, just simply because Saints managed a point away at Wolves. Could we have gotten more? Potentially. Did we miss some chances? Yes. Was Alex McCarthy absolutely crucial in making sure that we actually preserved a point? Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about all that this week with Richard Kharman. Richard, I just easier to refer to him as Kharman, only because that's how the mutual friend that we have, Steven, that's how he refers to him all the time. So I'm going to go with that. Kharman hosts a podcast called Serie, Sitdown. So if you're at all interested in Serie or know somebody who is, that is a podcast that is well received. He also hosts a podcast about SchalkeMerica. So if you are English speaking and enjoy Schalke, I have some advice about podcasting about a team that is doing very, very poorly. So, we did this show for, the last 4 years. We weren't good for all of it. So we'll talk about that a little bit. If you sense something a little bit different, I haven't actually spoken to him yet. So this is being recorded kind of directly after the game. Had a couple of audio issues today. I think, if you're hearing this, that means the show came out. But the show was very much in danger of not coming out. Episode 201 was almost not happening because of some of the things that were going on. But anyway, we are here. We're going to talk to Richard now, talk to Kharman now, however you want to call him. He's at @R_Kharman on Twitter and Instagram, so you can follow him there. Links to SchalkeMerica and the Serie Sitdown are all in the show notes. So if you're interested in those, great. But you know what? We're going to talk about Saints mostly because that is why we are here. We'll also probably cover Romeu's contract and fans potentially being back in the stands, even though both Kharman and I live in the United States. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the support and the shout outs and the love everybody sent for episode 200. I really do appreciate it. I'm glad to be doing it this week again, and glad we have some good football to talk about even if maybe we got a little bit lucky. But that is enough of this. I will talk to you on the other side. I'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Richard Kharman. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at @R_Kharman. You can get his voice across a plethora of platforms, talking about all kinds of stuff from Serie A to the Bundesliga. Richard, welcome back. And it's been a long time. And I guess if we play on a weekday and we win, I should just talk to you. So maybe we should just talk to you every time we play on a weekday, because we're 2-0 at this point.
Yeah, right. We should do that. We should do it more often. I was going to say that I come on as often as Theo-Logical scores for Southampton, but then I was like, nah, I've been on more recently. He has 15 years. It's been a long time for him. So I'm glad to be back, man.
Yeah. Because last time it was Swansea. It was the immediate reaction after Gabbiadini scored, Hotel Gate, all of that stuff. And then tonight, just having the game move to Monday night makes it, I mean, kind of nice, but also kind of a rush to get it all done. But here we are on Monday evening, getting to talk about a draw. Oh, so I guess it wasn't a win. That whole intro should just go.
We didn't lose, though.
Because we didn't win. I felt like a win, I guess, even though, I don't know, even though I guess that towards the end of it, I was just kind of glad we held on. But we'll talk about all of that. So it's been a little while since you've been on the show. So for people maybe who picked the show up recently, let's talk about some of the stuff that you do. You do 2 podcasts, at least. One being Serie A Sitdown. And can you just kind of fill me in on your kind of love of Serie A and why you chose to do that show and like what the format of that show is?
Yeah. So Serie A Sitdown is my oldest podcast that I have. Not quite as old as your show. We're in our 5th season now. We're about episode 1, just about 170 right now. So we're just behind you. But yeah, my love for Serie A has been since the beginning. Really, that's really the first league I kind of fell in love with. AC Milan. Started following them and started watching Serie A, and I love everything about Italy as well. And so I kind of, just been a fan for a long time of the league. And probably 5 years ago, just over 5 years ago, I was thinking, I was like, you know what, I kind of want to talk about it a little bit. And I had just joined this writers group called World Football Index, and a buddy of mine was on there as well. He's like, hey, you want to do a podcast? And we've known each other for a long time. We're both Milan fans. And we're like, yeah, let's do a podcast. And we kind of ran with it. We call it a recap show on steroids. And so we literally talk every game every weekend and go in depth into all the games and, how they went and this and that. So we're very in depth on all the teams. We don't just, just say, hey, the score was this, and move on. We really talk about each of the games. So it takes a while. I mean, our podcast will run anywhere from an hour to 2 hours long. The average is about an hour and a half. So, we get nice and in depth. We talk about the Italian national team. It's mostly just the Italian teams in Serie A and when they play in Europe as well. So, it's pretty fun. We get to have guests from all different teams, keep it fresh, keep it lively. Yeah, we even got a YouTube page where we live stream the podcast, and then we throw up other videos as well. But yeah, it's been going 5 years now, and 5 years strong, really. So it's an amazing ride, and I'm sure you can attest to the length of time of doing podcasts. How it's a labor of love.
Absolutely,
no doubt about it.
And I mean, for you to, I don't know how you do that, because it takes all of my energy to be able to do a show about one team. And the first thing that happens when I get asked to be a guest on somebody else's show, and it's like an opposition preview or something, and they're like, well, how do you think Saints will attack us? And I was like, well, I can tell you what Saints are going to do because they do one thing. But if you want for me to pick apart your team, like I don't have the knowledge. Like I'm not going to pretend to do that. So for you to sit there and talk about every single match, it's impressive. And then on top of that, you also do SchalkeMerica, which is, I think, the only English language pod dedicated to Schalke. So you've been doing that a while as well. And, while Serie A Sitdown, things are quite nice. Italy's interesting, and AC Milan's doing okay, right? They're not. I don't pay attention to Serie A.
Yeah, top
much,
of the table. They're top of the table now.
Yeah. So you'll take that. SchalkeMerica, though, how is that going?
Well, it's as a Saints fan, you understand how it can be to podcast about a team that doesn't win that often. And both Jack and I, we've been doing this podcast for about 4 years for SchalkeMerica. We're the unofficial podcast of the club. We work with the club a lot. Chatting up ideas, and we even had players come on and stuff like that. So it's been fun in that regard. But we've joined the podcast realm at the worst absolute time because the team's been pretty bad over the last 4 years. They had one good season where they finished second, but the other 3 seasons they finished near the bottom. And this year they're looking at they're at the very bottom this year. So it's not been fun from that respect, but it's been interesting. There's still so much passion with the club, with the fans, as like with the Saints fans. Even if you're losing, you still got that passion there, and trying to find something each week to talk about other than, well, we lost again. So it's been tricky.
Yeah. Well, I did write in the in the kind of the running order here, like, how to podcast when your team is, pardon my language, but it's because I have some history. I mean, when I started doing this show, it was Puel's first season. And we were kind of in this downward spiral. We were talking about kind of just really boring football, and then, getting knocked out of Europe, getting knocked out of cup competitions, losing the cup final, which still was a good day, but losing nonetheless. And then the seasons after that, I mean, the team was just awful and not fun to talk about, not fun to watch. And it did at times get really, really hard to talk about. So yeah, I guess, how I got through it is just getting to ask the same questions. It was a little bit cathartic, but I had, different perspectives come on, because everybody that came on the show tended to have at least something they were looking forward to. So I know you have a co-host, but you mix it up every once in a while with a guest, and you'll be happy. And I know you do that because Dave Lee, one of the patrons of the show, has been on your show, and we did watch a Schalke game last year together via Zoom. And
we call him the American Outlaw because he is in charge of the American Outlaws out west. So I know Dave Lee very well.
Yeah, Dave's great, and I felt bad because we were like, oh, let's watch the game, and then it was just like, sorry, Dave, this isn't going well. And
can I change the channel?
yeah. Well, yeah, as I could just mute mine and like start watching something else and just watch his reaction and know what was happening. So it's all right. But yeah, so I mean, if anyone wants to check those out, all the links to those things are in the show notes. Both SchalkeMerica, Serie, Sitdown, and all of that. So if people have other rooting interests, they can do that. And if they decide after this that they don't like either one of us, they can just go root against Schalke, and that'll be all right. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about Saints. And we had the longest break of all time, it seemed like. A lot of players, so congratulations to Stuart Armstrong, who did manage to qualify for the Euros. That's great. But, coming back, it was a little bit of time to wait, but it did give me a nice free weekend. I don't know what you did. You probably watched Serie and had to deal with all that stuff, so you didn't probably have a free weekend. But I did. It was kind of nice. And then coming back on a Monday night, rough game, but some things happened since the last show. So we'll briefly touch on Romeu's new contract extension. So now he's going to be here for 2.5 seasons, and kind of was player of the season under Puel, I believe. Was a big part of the team, and then kind of not disappeared, but kind of took a back seat as Ward-Prowse and Højbjerg became more involved in the midfield. And now he's back. So I mean, for you, do you think it's important that we locked him in for another 2.5 seasons?
Yeah, as long as I've been following the Saints, and I've been following the Saints ever since they got promoted back to the Premier League, they've been my team, and just following, especially when he first joined the club. It was 2015, 2016. He's the type of player he is, exactly what the Saints need, and the fans are drawn to this type of player. I mean, he just gets his all the time in the midfield, and he's a pretty good player to boot. And the Saints have always had fairly young squads. And it's good to keep veterans around who've been around, that fans love, that players love, coaches love as well. Like you said, he was player of the season back when Puyol was here, and Hassan Hudl, he loves him, and I think having that 2-year extension is fantastic. I mean, he's 29 years old. He's getting up there in age, but he's still very serviceable. Højbjerg is now gone, so him and Romeu and Ward-Prowse now bossing that midfield. I think they perfectly complement each other, and it's fantastic that he's here for 2.5 more years, and it's going to serve the team very well, especially this year they're playing quite well, much more than in the past, several years. So having someone like him to just keep everyone level-headed, I think is important times a million. This is exactly the kind of player you need to have in the locker room.
Yeah, and I think my thoughts on it are along the same lines. He's a very good player in his own right. He has changed his game a little bit. He's a little quicker on the ball now than he was.
Surprising, isn't it?
Yeah. Like he I don't know. He was a little ponderous early on in Hasenhüttl's tenure, and he seemed to always get caught and then have to lunge in for a challenge or bring somebody down, and that's where some of the yellow cards came from. But he enjoys the yellow card anyway. He didn't pick one up today, which I thought there was at least two instances where he probably should have. But okay, he didn't, so we'll take it. But he is a good player. He played at Barcelona at the academy. He played for Chelsea. He's not a slouch, and so to have him come in and just kind of get a run in the team, I think is great. But more importantly, to be the kind of senior figure for Diallo to look at, for maybe Smallbone to look at, for Ward-Prowse to, even though Ward-Prowse is the captain, to be able to bounce ideas off of and just have an equal there to kind of learn from and challenge you. I think that's great. He's getting forward a little bit more. He seems to be playing a bit more advanced in this season than he has, and I think it's just part of the system because we have to get guys forward. But I think he's found a role, and I don't really see a reason to move him on. And I like Diallo coming on late, but he came on for Armstrong. He didn't come on for Romeu. So I think that's something to watch, because although I think Diallo will eventually slot in the middle there. For now, that's Romeu's job to sit next to Ward-Prowse. So we'll have to kind of watch that along, and I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. The other thing I wanted to talk about before is on Monday, the UK government announced that they're potentially going to be allowing fans back in the stadium starting December 2nd, I believe, and that'll be kind of rolling out depending on what the coronavirus cases look like in a given area. But I believe in Germany and I think in Italy as well, fans are starting to come back in limited capacity. Is that correct?
Yeah. So really, Germany has really been the leader in all of this in Europe, especially in Europe, but also around the world, about how to bring back fans and stuff. And the way they did it with the last season is, they started out no fans, and then this season, depending on what your region was and how bad the cases were, some games would allow to have fans, other wouldn't. So I remember a game, actually first game of the season, it was Bayern hosting Schalke, and Bayern weren't allowed to have fans because it was really bad in the Munich area. But they started I think every team pretty much had players allowed to come back or fans come back to like even a small number, 3,000, 5,000, something like what they're proposing in the UK. But recently they actually, with the cases going back up, they actually going to close the stadiums once again. Italy, they just recently opened up the stadiums to the fans, and at present they're going to keep it, I think, but I feel like I heard a rumor this weekend that they were going to close them all to the fans again. So while they were open, they're actually now they're reverting back, and that's why I'm kind of confused with what I'm hearing coming out of the UK, because I thought the UK was pretty bad, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, entering a lockdown and then also announcing you're going to let fans in 2 weeks is a little bit weird, but obviously in the United States, I want to say the DC area where you live, things are going okay. But in California, things are not going well, and a lot of places around the country, things aren't going well. But yeah, I mean, the proposal is 4,000 fans if your region is in tier 1, 2,000 fans if you're in tier 2, and no fans allowed if you're in tier 3. But I guess, have you seen it have an impact on the play and on the games, or is 4,000 fans or 5,000 fans in a stadium that holds 32 or 40,000 or maybe only 20,000, it looks a lot more like a Houston Dynamo game than it does a Serie A match, I think.
I think it does make an impact, and it really depends on the team. So if they're teams that historically have great fan bases that sing and stuff like that, you do miss it when they're not there. And I remember there was a Serie A game where they let in only a couple thousand fans, but they were the ultras that came in and they were singing, and you could hear on TV, and it was amazing. And the players feed off that kind of stuff. And then teams like, I'll talk about Schalke because I have a Schalke podcast. They thrive. The team thrives on the fans, and when they play poor, they feed off the crowd to get better in the games, and they don't have that now, and they're really struggling because of that. And I've seen a lot of teams the same way. Even in the game today, they're talking about the Wolves. If they had the fans there, it would have helped them add a little bit more energy into the game. Not having the fans there, especially those teams that live on that, like even Liverpool and some of these other bigger clubs that they live on kind of reaction. It hurts them to an extent. Now, granted, they're professional football players and they should be able to play through it, but you need a little bit extra sometimes, especially when it's a big game or a game that needs a little extra kick to have the crowd in there. So it will help in that regards, but again, it's with the current climate, I don't know if it's the right move, but we're not the decision makers, I guess, right?
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen any kind of live sport. I think it was high school volleyball was the last sport I was at, maybe basketball. And yeah, I mean, but it's we're not doing Thanksgiving. I assume you're probably not doing
correct
much of it. It's just it doesn't feel like the right thing to do. But as long as this is happening safely, then I'm all for it, because I think we all want fans back. We want life to look a little bit more normal. I guess my priority is just that everybody be safe. So I am hopeful and excited, but I just hope everybody they go about it the right way, I guess.
I think if they go up the model like you saw in the Bundesliga or in Germany, I should say, it could work. It could work because it did work there for a little bit. If they take the model that's happening here in the United States, it's not going to work. We've seen no social distancing in the stadiums here, and so yeah, it really depends on how they actually plan about this. And if they go about it safe, great. I mean, I'm all for fans in the stadium, but like you, I'm all about safety first, and taking people's lives is more important to me right now. Just keeping people safe,
Yeah. Now it is always weird to see the the USL Championship games, which is the second division in the US. Tune in to watch the playoffs, and jammed at one end behind the goal is every fan in the stadium, when there's definitely plenty of room for all of them to be there, because there's only 2,000 people there total anyway. But they're all jammed up behind the goal. So
let me ask you a question real quick. About, since we're talking about fans. What is your opinion of the sound that they bring into the TV feed? Do you like it or are you against it? Because I'm not. I thought it would be a great idea at the beginning, but I really don't like it.
I don't like it as much. It doesn't bother me. Like I can't go, I'm going to mute it. But I really wish I could just hear more I want to hear the coaches. I want to hear the players.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one unique benefit that I kind of want to hear now, is like how what the players are saying. Are they talking? And then you get the noise in the background, like, all right, calm down a little bit. I want to hear the players.
I will say that I think the job that NBC is doing for the Premier League coverage here is better than what people are getting elsewhere. Because I know there were times as well that they used to, I think Fox used to put fake sound, crowd noise in, just kind of humming along anyway. And that was never very good, because there were actually fans there. They just wanted to sound, better. And I think the Premier League is doing a great job. I mean, the sounds are all on. They don't press the wrong button, if whatever, but it's just not the same. And I really just want to hear Ralph yell at the players. That's what I want to hear. So it's taking me out of that. So that's okay. But I mean, Saints did manage a point today, and I want to correct myself for the long rambling intro I gave you, where I said that you only come on when we win, because it didn't happen. But Saints did end the week in 5th place, still unbeaten in their last 5, which is obviously nice to see. And I guess if you're going to go away to Wolves and you're going to get a point, I think you're going to take it. That's not an easy team to play. They have attacking talent. They showed that today. I think McCarthy had to come up big, but I guess we should talk just briefly about Saints' form, and kind of having gone through the last 4 seasons of us kind of not being great and kind of staying up and late in the season, and then having a little bit of a resurgence last season. How much have you enjoyed just watching the team this year, and what have you made of the form of the team under Hasenhüttl so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've really just enjoyed watching the team since Hasenhüttl's been there. And Danny Ings has been amazing for the club. And then this season in particular, they're playing against these big clubs so far and going toe-to-toe and taking points from them. And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, I'm not used to this. I mean, I could get used to it easily. But it's just so fun to watch the players get up for these games. And I think Hasenhüttl's doing a fantastic job of getting the boys up, getting the tactic right every game, mostly every game, and every week is a struggle in the Premier League. I mean, there's so many good clubs, so many clubs with money that you got to worry about. I mean, you got Man City that's sitting in 13th place. I mean, it's a pretty deep league with how good these clubs are right now, and the job that the team is doing. Ward Prowse is a captain now, and he's just bossing that midfield as always. But Ings is still doing fantastic stuff, and every guy just stepping up and playing even better. And like I said, Romeu has now got a contract extension. He's playing really well now, and it's just so fun to watch. I'm like, this is something that we've been longing for the longest time, right? And now we finally see. We're like, okay, thank goodness, let's keep it going, boys, keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, because when we spoke around the Swansea game last time, it was kind of one of those things where we're like, we got off, we're lucky, we're here, Now, can we move forward? And we didn't, and we just kind of were staying in the same place and dealing with the same things, kind of. I don't want to say year after year, but it was definitely week after week, and we just weren't progressing. And since Ralph has come in, the progression in so many of the players has been so good. The way that they've moved forward, and I think it's been phenomenal. And I can't express how I think how great it is to finally see the team play the way that you knew they could when they were under Pochettino and under Koeman and in all of the seasons before that when they were coming up, getting promoted back through the leagues and into the Premier League, the way that the team played then, and to see the system kind of go all the way through the club now, I think is something that I'm really enjoying. And I think you probably have a little bit of history with Hasenhüttl being in Germany. You could probably see just how deadly that Red Bull team can be, or that RB team can be, I should say. I know it's not Red Bull, don't yell at me. But it's it's been wonderful to watch, and it's nice to hear that other people. I think it's pretty I think it's pretty much all of us feel that way, which is nice, because usually fans can't agree on anything, and this is definitely
exactly
Ralph Hasenhüttl good. I think we're all there, so it's kind of nice.
I think every fan I've talked to, I'm in a football group on Facebook. I'm still using Facebook, but there's fans from all kinds of teams all over the league, and the one thing we all agree upon is that Hasenhüttl is doing a fantastic job. And that's nice to hear from some of your rivals too. They're like, yeah, Hasenhüttl is doing a fantastic job. He's he should be up for Man of the Year at this point. So that's nice to hear. That it's the one thing we can all get behind, I guess.
Yeah, not masks or social distancing, but Hasenhüttl good. So there we go. Let's talk about the draw at Wolves. 1-1 in a game where I'll just say from the start, I felt like we had the better of the possession, but we weren't creating anything, which sounds familiar. I feel like I've said that, a lot over the past couple of years. But we looked comfortable, and then, we do score, and then Wolves just kind of said, okay, well, now McCarthy is going to have to be the man of the match, right? Because they just came back and kind of went after it. I don't like when I go to who scored after the game and I click on it, and under strengths for Southampton, it says this team had no significant strengths. Like, that's never a good feeling. But that is definitely what it said today. And I'm not sure that's fair, because it's just, nobody's writing that. This is just drawing stuff up. But I guess let's start with the lineup, because I really think there's only one spot up for grabs at this point, and that is the left kind of advanced midfield or attacking midfield position. And Redmond, as far as I know, I didn't see anything about him being injured, but Redmond not in the squad at all. Djenepo gets the start. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I found that very odd as well, because like you said, he wasn't even in the lineup or on the bench, and you're like, okay, what's going on there? So I was curious to see how Djenepo would do in this game. I thought he did okay. He had some moments where he looked really, was lively and making some nice passes, and other times it looked like he was falling out of the game. But it's certainly, I think, a position that's still up for grabs. I mean, on his day, Redmond is a fantastic player. And I think Djenepo can do that? Sure. It's all about consistency. Who can be the most consistent? And I think that's that's gonna be what's the best for the club. But in this game, he did okay. I wasn't super impressed with him. He did the job, right? He didn't get torched all game long, which is never a good sign if that happens. So at least he held his own there. So overall, a decent day for him.
Yeah. My biggest criticism of Djenepo is he's just not strong enough. He's not as strong as I would like him to be.
Yeah.
He's elusive. He is kind of is unpredictable, and that can be both good and bad. There was a time today at some point he just dummied the ball, and the ball just ran by Bertrand because Bertrand was totally expecting him to take it. And it's like, well, that's what Djenepo was going to give you, is because everybody thought he was going to take the ball, probably because he should have. But there were also a couple times where he came up against Semedo, and Semedo just kind of brushed him off. And and I would like something a little bit more from him there, but he's young. He's very like long and gangly, and it's going to take time for him to do that if he bulks up a little bit, which, is not for me to tell anybody to bulk up if you see me try to run. So it's not worth it. But I was looking at Wolves lineup today and thinking, most of their attacking talent is there. They have Traore there, which is the type of player that causes us trouble. There were a couple of times where he did get by Bertrand, but I thought we did a pretty good job of just leaving tackles in on him. I thought Vestergaard took a couple shots, Bertrand, Romeu as well. Djenepo tried, but of course got brushed aside because that's what happens. But
that's a credible Hulk too, so it's hard to push him off,
Yeah, well, I don't want to get in the way if he's going full speed.
Yeah, no way.
And I don't know. So I guess, was there anybody on the pitch, just from an overall kind of point of view, aside from McCarthy, we'll come to him, that really you thought had an outstanding game? Because I'm trying to think about it, and I'm not sure that I could pick anybody out that really maybe had a fantastic game today.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone in particular. I mean, if it was anyone, maybe it would have been, Romeu or Ward-Prowse maybe, but it really, no, I mean, it was a pretty average game for most of the guys, really. And then Djenepo being one of them, where he was, at times getting brushed aside by guys like Nelson Semedo, who really isn't a big guy, to get pushed around by him. Not always a good look, but yeah, it was okay from the guys. This is always going to be a chess match, because Wolves have always been a big team, and they're a team that many people look high upon, reaching a European spot this year. And so, I always knew it was going to be the tough game with this, because they got a great manager and they got some really good players on that team. So trying to find a way to make it neutralize as best as possible is what Southampton would have wanted to do, and I think they did that fairly well.
Yeah, going away from home, things are always going to be difficult, but Saints came out, and I kind of, just watching the opening 15, 20 minutes, didn't really realize, like, hey, we're on the road here. We were the team just playing our game, and it didn't matter that we're on the road. It doesn't matter where we're at. And Wolves, I don't want to say had a hard time coping, but Wolves were having a hard time getting a foot in the game and really establishing themselves. And I think that's something that Ralph has done recently, especially is Saints just go out and play their game. They don't constantly, they make adjustments, but they don't change their entire game plan. They don't have to play a third center back because the other team is going to be attacking more. Or we don't have to play a different formation all the time. And so I think all of that stuff really shows how far Ralph has brought the guys.
Oh yeah, no, I'm glad that Ralph's doing this now, because a sign of a good team is a team saying, we're going to play our game no matter what. This is what we are. This is how we play. This is how we play. This is how we play well. The managers who tinker too much will often get it wrong, and trying to match up with different opponents. Well, sometimes it can work, and if you have the pieces to be able to do that, depth to do it, great, the versatility. But if you don't, then stick with what got you there and keep doing it, and force them to stop you. I think that's the number one key, and I think Hassan Huddle is really starting to do that. To say, this is how we're going to play. You need to stop us, and it showed in that first, opening, 15, 20 minutes of the game that they were really taking it to the Wolves, and Wolves really were like, oh, okay, what do we do here? And it took them a while to get into the game. So bravo for Hassan Huddle for implementing that, and over the last several games here.
Yeah. So I mean, starting off in the first half, Saints were outshot in both halves, but the possession stats were there, and I think just the fact that Ralph has the guys playing in a way that forces other teams to adjust and to find a way into the game a lot of times, I thought was really, really good. I will say, though, that sometimes we don't create enough kind of clear goal scoring opportunities, and I think that is maybe somewhere where we are going to struggle. Danny Ings tends to find those instances and make the most of them, and I think that's something that we're really going to miss. If you give Ings that second chance, Ings is going to score that second chance that Walcott missed today. If you if you give Ings that first chance that he had, he's going to score there as well, and he probably finds a way to fashion himself another chance. So I think maybe going forward, as much as I love Theo Walcott, I'm so glad he got his goal today. I think, when I look back at the game, that's maybe the one that we should have had, but they had so many shots and McCarthy had to come up big so many times that maybe we should just be happy with the point, which I guess we can kind of get into right now. But I guess just right from the beginning, McCarthy came up kind of with back-to-back saves right there. But let's talk a little bit about it, because I've been critical of McCarthy a little bit in terms of his distribution. I don't think he passes the ball well, and that is frustrating. But coming up with shots, coming up and stopping shots like he did today, coming up big for us, I think this is not abnormal of him at this time, and I think that's kind of what you need if you're going to find a way to win games sometimes.
Yeah, the goalkeeper position is so underrated sometimes, and I don't understand why, because it's hard for them. There are some parts of the game that they're not having any action whatsoever, or they get small crosses they can easily snag out of the air. But at times they have to stop these amazing shots that get on them, because the defense will break down. It's bound to happen unless you have a freaking historical defense. You're going to break it down at some point, and so the goalie has to come up big in those situations. And McCarthy has been doing it, pretty brilliantly. And this game in particular had some, point blank saves, some long distance saves. He had to be on his toes, and he was ready. Like you said, his distribution isn't that great, but he more than makes up for it with his reaction with some of these saves. And if it's not for his saves, this scoreline could have been much different. And I think the team feeds off of it when he makes these big saves. And how could you not be? You get motivated. Your goalkeeper is going out of his way to make these amazing saves. As a defense and as a midfield, as a team in general, you should just get pumped up and want to do everything you can for him, so he doesn't have to face that many shots. Because he's going out of his way to do what he can to win the game. So that makes you just want to say, you know what, I'm gonna go through a wall for this guy to get some points for our team.
Yeah, I think he made saves all the way through this game, and I think that's kind of the key, is that it wasn't just one instance when he came up with these saves, but
yeah.
If you kind of track them, they're all the way spread throughout the game. And I think he had a double save early. He came up, he saved from a header, from a free kick, and that's something that we actually did. We're not great at today. We gave away a lot of fouls around in dangerous positions, and Wolves were kind of finding ways to create chances out of them. I think Jimenez was offside once. Jimenez didn't have a great game, which I think is one of the reasons that we were able to pull it out. But McCarthy had to save from a Podence kind of flick header. He had to save a couple of other times, just shots that were not mistakes. They weren't the miss-hit or anything like that. They were legitimate, well-placed or well-struck shots. And the one that he wasn't able to stop, I don't think there was anything you could do about it, because Jimenez once again managed to get his foot on it, struck it well, came off the post, and then the rebound, I think it was Neto, was there to bury it home, and we just kind of fell asleep. But I think he kept us in the game early, even though we had been the better team in terms of possession, things like that. We just hadn't created enough chances, and to have that happen, because I think we've all seen it, where we're playing well, we just haven't created a chance yet, or we haven't put away a chance yet, and then the other team comes down the other end and scores with their first chance, and that never feels good, that never goes well. And so to have McCarthy just keep us in the game and keep, like you said, the momentum and the enthusiasm from the guys, keep it up, I think that does help quite a bit. So I'm pretty happy with his performance today. Let's talk really quickly. Armstrong had a chance. Armstrong, once again, I thought was played well, but he did have a chance. Probably should have, having gotten by the defender and gotten to the ball, probably should have scored. But what did you make of that chance? And it was one of those things, again, where we just hope that it doesn't come back to haunt us.
Yeah, and that's always the thing, right? Because whenever you get a great opportunity, like you said, the football gods, the way they work is, if you have missed a great opportunity will come back the other way. But I thought he did well to get himself the space to get a shot off, and I was hoping he could keep the ball down and get it accurate. Unfortunately, it didn't go in, but being able to create those opportunities is so important. And like you said, when the team's not creating that many chances, any chance you create, you need to really, capitalize on. And while he didn't do that, I thought, just to get the opportunity, create the chance, went a long way, and that's good for him, good for his confidence as well. And we need to find some ways to muster up these chances, especially when Ings is not around. Someone needs to step up and try to get some goals. So at least to see him doing that was a positive sign.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the goal. I don't know if you want to kind of walk me through what you were thinking as Saints were in the build up to their goal. I kind of thought the chance had gone a little bit, but then Adams kind of resurrected himself, and I don't know what Semedo was doing. Maybe he was trying to go brush Djenepo off of him again, but he was not. He went very Cedric-like at the back post.
Yeah. So just before this goal happened, probably for the 10, 20 minutes before that, it was pretty much Wolves that were in possession, and then Southampton started keeping the possession a little bit more, taking back some of that possession, and slowly building the game, kind of really sucking the life out of Wolves by keeping the ball. And eventually, they started breaking down the defense for the Wolves. The ball ended up getting to Adams. It gets blocked, whatever. He sticks with it. He crosses across the pitch, and I don't know where Semedo was, but brilliant play by Adams. I didn't see that coming when he was going for that ball. And so to have the foresight to see someone on the back post, and then, obviously Theo-Logical doing great to put it away. It's never easy to get a tap in like that, especially when the ball is put in with pace, the way Che Adams did it. But I thought Che Adams really was, his stick-to-itiveness really created that goal, and Walcott being in the right place at the right time, put it away. I was happy for him, like you said, and the fact that the way the Saints kind of built up that play leading up to the goal was something, because I think it almost lulled them to sleep just enough where they could take the action and get that goal away. So I was ecstatic to see that play happen.
Yeah. I think it's really good for Walcott to also get a goal. I think that will do well for his confidence. And I think, across Saints fan bases, I think most fans want him to do well and are happy that he's home. And my mind has changed on that. Initially, I didn't want him. And I said that, and then I've been very happy with how he's played. And I've also been, I think he's going to be a good influence on some of the players that are around. I do want to say, I just saw some news while we're talking that Redmond apparently is injured, set to be out for 7 to 10 days. So that is coming from the Southampton page, which is one of the partners of the show. So I will trust that they have read up on that. That is all I have on that. And I'm sure people will have more information than we do as we sit here and record, not that long after the final whistle. So we'll hope that he's all right. And maybe that will explain it, because that's better than the alternative where he's just had a falling out with Ralph. So, there we go. But I think, if we move forward to Walcott's second chance, and to me, when I look at what happened on Monday night, the Armstrong miss and the Walcott miss, like that could be the difference between, being in a European place or being in 10th place. Those are the goals that you kind of have to, if everything's going right, those go in. And today we didn't take the chances. We still managed a point, and so we'll take it. But I would eventually like to see us take care of those, which I think I probably speak for everybody when I say that.
Yeah, no, and it showed how much we missed Danny Ings, right? Because like you said earlier, Danny Ings would have nailed it in the back of the net, no questions asked. I would have been celebrating before he took a shot. But Theo-Logical coming down, he's historically never been comfortable in these kind of situations, and when he took the shot, I'm thinking, surprise the keeper, go short side. He tried to go across the body, tried to go far side, didn't work out. Patricio did well to get big, but you're on a breakaway, you need to put those away. If you're on the top level, and he's been around the block too, so he should have this experience to be able to put a ball like this on a breakaway away, and he didn't do that. And I just like you, I felt, okay, this is not going to go well. We need to start putting another one away, get that insurance goal in, because they obviously have a lot of manpower, and with Raul Jimenez, he is a very talented striker, and you give him enough opportunities, he's going to create something. So that was my big worry when I saw that get missed. I'm like, come on, Theo, get that second goal, get that brace.
Yeah, it would have been fantastic had it happened, but it just not the day. But still, we do manage to to walk away with a point, which I think we would have taken had you just given us a point at the beginning of the day. I think we all would have taken it. But
Agreed.
we have a couple of questions, and based on, I think we've covered. I mean, there wasn't honestly a lot to dissect in the game, I don't think, because
chess match.
Yeah, and I'm mostly happy with the players. I think with Djenepo, I could have, like I said, there were a couple of times where I do worry about Bertrand getting exposed when Djenepo plays in front of him, simply because the fluidity isn't quite there between the two of them, and I wonder, or I worry about us getting caught in possession. Actually, before we jump to the questions, I do want to say Saints did not pick up a yellow card today. Ruben Neves got one, Traore got one. I thought we had a number of fouls that maybe we should have been carded for. But I just wanted, I think it was Andre Mariner was in charge, and Wolves actually fouled us more times than we fouled them. But I thought that we, looking at the kind of run of this, it looks like we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 or 7 fouls on Traore alone. And I think that was definitely something that we were, afraid of that. But I mean, does that defensive kind of frailty, or do you think that, do you think the referee managed the match well enough, or do you think that there were times when maybe we should have been carded or other things should have happened?
I mean, I definitely think we should have been carded. As much as we were going after the Traore, like you said, a couple of those plays were a little iffy, and I was surprised and no cards were given. So I think you got to give credit to the referee. You try to keep the flow of the game going, even though there wasn't much of a flow. Like we said, you get two fantastic managers here with Nuno and Hassan Hudl. It was always going to be a chess match in this kind of game, and it felt like two heavyweights almost trying to go at it and trying to feel each other out. And so the referee, despite the flow not being super great, he tried to keep it going. And yeah, there's still fouls in the game, but 2 yellows overall is not bad. And I got to give him credit for that, because sometimes you get referees that they go on power trips and give everyone on the pitch a yellow card or something. And I'm glad it wasn't that kind of game, because those games are really hard to watch because it's stop and start. At least the game kept the time going, and the game didn't seem as long as other games that we've seen where you get 10 minutes of stoppage time.
Yeah. Well, I would have thought that early on, first thing when Bednarek missed that clearance. And Romeu had to come in and commit the foul. I thought, well, there's the yellow card, and we'll watch him play the rest of it, because we keep talking about how he doesn't have a red, and he just was like, well, he's gonna have to walk this fine line. But he only committed, I think, one other foul the whole match, but everybody else kind of just chipped in and hacked down Traore whenever we could, which I think I'll take if that's going to prevent him from running by everybody. So yeah, and then the other thing I wanted to say is that there were a couple of times when people were on the ground where people weren't given fouls. I think Walcott wasn't given a foul. I want to say, Jimenez was down and we played on. We had a man down, they played on. And that's the kind of stuff that I understand it happens, but you don't normally see it. I think a lot of times we've been accused of being too nice, and I think Ward-Prowse turned around and saw Jimenez down on the ground from a perfectly acceptable challenge by Bertrand. It wasn't violent at all. And we switched the ball to the other side and continued to play. And then when Walcott was kind of fouled and we played kind of a loose, I think Romeu played a loose square pass towards Djenepo or Bertrand, and Traore pounced on it. That was one of the ones where I think we wound up fouling him again, or maybe he shot it and went out of bounds. That might have been that time. But those kind of instances, I always kind of wonder if what the referee is supposed to do. And I feel like although there were only 14 and 13 fouls given overall, I feel like there were a lot of other instances where fouls probably should have been given. But like you said, the game flowed, so I'm not sure I'm really complaining, other than I guess it's just not what I'm used to seeing. Yeah,
and I think also in that Armstrong opportunity early in the game, he fouled his man and the play kept going. Referee didn't blow anything, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad they didn't call that, because we had opportunity to score a goal there. So yeah, at times sometimes the referee's going to pull that trigger just too quick. But the fact that he let them play a little bit more and see if they're really hurt, because you can always go back if they are hurt, or if it is something you see a foul, let it play out, and then you go back and give a card. So I think he did an okay job for in terms of refereeing, we've seen some pretty bad ones
Yeah.
this year so far overall, but I think he did fairly well.
Well, at least he wasn't making it about him, right? It wasn't
Exactly.
wasn't the Mike Dean show. Mike Dean was not playing the game and didn't have the 8 p.m. kickoff on a Monday.
Oh, Mike.
Anyway, so we got a couple of questions from Al Capone 156. We'll start with one that I think we'll smile about, and it says, like, how great was McCarthy today? And we've talked about it a little bit, but I guess for you, we've come to expect saves from him. Did he do anything else today that impressed you, or was it just? I think he has the highest rating on Who Scored. I don't know if he got man of the match or not because I never stick around long enough to see if that's the case. But what did you make of his performance overall?
Overall, it was a great performance. Like you said, he's probably man of the match. Considering some big saves he made, he kept the defense in line as well, kept them on their toes. Trying to organize them when they were getting broken down at times. So overall, I thought he was a good leader on the pitch there, and you can't say anything more about him. I mean, just what big saves he had. I mean, amazing saves that really kept the team in there. And if anyone earned a point in this game, it was him. So
yeah,
definitely kudos to him.
We got another one come in from Instagram from Mark_Rossi_ says, can we finish top 6 this season?
So before the season, I forget who it was asking what the predictions were going to be for Saints, what they're going to finish this year. And I said, you know what? They're going to finish in a European spot. That's what I went on a limb and said, I think the team is good enough. I saw how the team played last year, and I thought we can build off of that. I knew the pieces that we had, the moves that we made. I'm like, you know what? If Ings can perform the way he did last year or better, we're going to do some good things. And finish in the top 6, I'm going to say, yeah. I said we can. I mean, there's really good teams this year. Some teams that came out that we didn't even expect to be good this year. Everton, Aston Villa, but I think a team can finish top 6. It's all about keeping Mr. number 9 healthy, though. I think if he stays healthy for the remainder of the season, I think we got a great opportunity. If he gets another injury, he gets hurt his knee once again, it's going to be a difficult task.
Yeah, and I think he's supposed to be back sometime in December, probably a little later than earlier. So, fingers crossed that everything's going well, and that when he comes back, he's fully fit and doesn't re-injure right away.
Exactly.
But I can't remember the exact timetable for him supposed to be coming back. And last question here, also from Al Capone. Do the 2 misses sour the result for you? And I'll say, I think I said it already, but a little bit for me, I was, kind of kicking myself, looking at the chances we had, but then you kind of look at the stats, and the stats don't flatter us at all. No. An expected goal.
The aesthetics didn't flatter us either.
Yeah. I thought that early on, with the possession and I think just the way that both teams were pressing, the game was actually fun to watch. There weren't a lot of chances, but it was entertaining. There were things were happening on the pitch. There were some fouls. There were some good passages of play, and it was kind of just the final ball wasn't there for either team. Then McCarthy's forced to come up with a couple of big saves. Armstrong goes wide, so there were chances and everything else. And then I just kind of thought that by the end of it, the point was fair, and maybe, just maybe, based on the number of shots they had versus the number of shots we had, maybe we were flattered a little bit to get out of there with a point. But I don't really think you could argue with the fact that we went in there and gave them a pretty good fight. We just didn't take the couple of chances that we had, and then we needed our goalkeeper to come up, which I think is part of the game. Like, the goalkeeper is part of the team, that he has to play well sometimes in order for the team to get points. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And, hindsight's always 20/20, and having the perspective later on, you realize. But when those 2 misses happen, you're thinking, okay, great, this is the Wolves. They have the attacking power. They're going to come back, and it's going to come back to bite us. Watch. But the fact that we hung on, obviously the goal that they had was a great opportunity created. Nothing McCarthy could have done about that, but the team hung on there, and ultimately, like you said, I mean, the last several minutes of the game, it was almost one-way traffic because they kept trying to get that extra goal in. McCarthy was huge, and at the end of it, when the final whistle blew, I said, you know what, I'm happy with 1-1 draw. You could watch in the game, it just, like I said earlier, it felt like a heavyweight bout. Two teams really trying to take it at each other. It wasn't super high flying by any stretch, but it was certainly entertaining in terms of a 1-1 game can be. So I'm more than happy with 1 point here. Like you said, going into the game, if you said we're getting 1 point, I've been ecstatic with that, and I'm happy with it. We remain unbeaten. We're still on the top end of the table, so not much more you can ask. I mean, a healthy Ings would probably do a good difference in the results, but it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep talking about heavyweight fights, and you got to remember, I'm a high school teacher, so I see a lot of one-punch knockouts, like before we can get there in the hallway. So I don't understand these tactics. I just see wild swinging, a lot of little screaming, some books in the air, things like that. So it doesn't quite hit home. But whatever. Yeah, I think definitely the game today resembled more of a heavyweight bout than what I see in the hallway. So there it is. But I just want you to know, just thank you for taking the time to do this. I know it's late for you, and you got a family, you got 2 podcasts, you got a YouTube channel, you got a lot of stuff going on. So to take the time to come on here and talk about the match, I'm glad we at least got a point. And thanks for coming on. If people want to follow you, they can do that at _Kharman. You also have Serie Sitdown and the SchalkeMerica podcast, and links to all of those are in the show notes. So anybody out there has, Serie A interest, or they're Schalke fans, or they have family members who are, or whatever, send them that way. And, it's just a pleasure to chat with you. And I got to get you on again before it can't be 2 years removed this time.
I'm all for it. Anytime I can come on and talk Saints, especially when they're playing well, I will love it. I enjoy the show. I love listening. Congratulations again on episode 200 there. So it's a fantastic. You've been doing this thing a lot longer than I am. You're much more polished than I am. So thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. No problem. Hopefully the people think this is polished. You have kind of seen a little bit behind the curtain tonight of what happens if I try to do it not before everybody's awake. So hopefully it's all right, and hopefully I didn't waste too much of your time. So appreciate it, and we'll have to do this again soon. Absolutely.
And that does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Dellivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Richard Kharman. You can find him on Instagram and Twitter at @R_Kharman. You can also get more from him at Serie Sitdown and SchalkeMerica. And I highly recommend you check both of those out if you have any interest in either Schalke, which is a team at the bottom of the Bundesliga. I hate to keep bringing that up, but they're at the bottom. And also Serie Sitdown, which covers all of Serie in some depth. So check that out, especially if you're a Schalke fan, because they are tied to the team directly, and they're the team at the bottom of the Bundesliga. So there's a connection. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just giving you a hard time. So sorry to the Schalke fans that are my friends, kind of. This show has some incredible partners that I am truly humbled to work with. You can follow the Southampton page on Twitter at Southampton page. They will keep you up to date with everything that is going on at the club. And you can follow the Saints Archive on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And they will bring you up to date with the things that have happened in the club's history. They will connect you with former players, and they will even help me interview some former players and set up those interviews, and then eventually bring them to you, potentially over the holiday season. So do be on the lookout for those. And if you're not a member already, get in there. You'll have some opportunities to ask questions and be involved in things like that. I would also like to mention that the Saints DSA is doing a fundraiser. If you'd like to say thank you to the players and let them know how much we all miss them, check out the link in the show notes to find out how to do that. And if you want to follow this show on Twitter or Instagram, you can do that. We're at SFCDELL_IVERY. And you can get everything at SouthamptonDellivery.com. So once again, I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. If you are enjoying the show, please consider sharing it with a friend or potentially leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you listen. I would very much appreciate that. We will be back next week. We got Michael Kern on the show after the United match. So very much looking forward to having him back to hear more about his upcoming book and, all about the boys of 76. That's enough for this week. We'll talk to you next time. And until then, remember that together, we march on.